Hey everyone, and welcome back to Bridging the Gap. Make sure to leave a like on this video down below and subscribe. My name is Alvin. I lean right on most issues, and I'll be representing the Republican side.
My name is Luke. I lean left on most issues, and I'll be representing the Democratic side. Hey guys, so in this little video we have here for you, Alvin and I will be giving you our takes on the best case for Democrats in the 2026 U.S. Senate elections.
Yeah, so you can see here that the floor for Republicans is likely going to be 45 seats at the very, very worst, and they'll probably get a little higher floor here as we fill out the map. But looking at the Senate map, of course, we know in the previous cycle, Republicans won all the way 53 seats, which were very significant in some confirmation hearings earlier this year. But Democrats are going to likely try to get as many seats as they can back in 2026 and try to make a push for the Senate in 2028. Now, this video is going to be the best case possible for Democrats. And since it's very, very early, the best case for Democrats is very wide, just like the best case for Republicans will be very wide. And one thing that we might be mentioning a lot throughout this video is education polarization, which is that Democrats are gaining more and more of voters that are highly educated and more wealthy compared to Republicans who are earning more of the votes of the working class and those who do not have a college degree. And the demographics that Democrats are winning, and they're winning more white voters, they're seating more minority voters. It makes them have a coalition that votes more often and votes in these midterm elections more reliably compared to
hmm
Republicans, which is going to give them an advantage.
Yeah, so you'll see like right off the bat, we have some like light blue states already marked pretty solid. Minnesota here, Virginia, New Jersey, and New Hampshire, for example. These are due to a variety of reasons. I mean, obviously they're bluish state. They were bluish states in 2024. So in a the best case for Democrats in 2026, we think they'd be solid, especially paired with Democratic incumbents running. For example, New Hampshire, Jeanne Shaheen would win by double digits in a pretty standard year like 2020. So in a blue wave year, or in a blue wave scenario, we expect these states to be solid blue. So, which state that's not solidly filled in do you want to go to first here?
Well, I do want to note before we go that we're also
Hmm.
assuming that the best candidate for the Democrats runs, of course, and not the best candidate for the Republicans run unless they're pretty much locked in to run, which is why we assume New Hampshire is dark blue. Of course, it's Jean
hmm
Shaheen running. I guess we'll move on. I think we should move to actually Michigan first. I would like to argue that Michigan is a dark blue state, a solid blue state before we move on. Now, I will say that Michigan is a little sus for Democrats with Gary Peters. Of course, he retired, and that doesn't look good because I mean, you look at the opening polling here. Mike Rogers, who was the candidate this time around for the Republicans, against potentially the leading candidate, honestly, Pete Buttigieg.
Yeah.
He's up six against Pete. But in the best case, I think Pete either doesn't run or loses the primary to someone much stronger, like Dana Nessel, for example, or even just anyone else on this list that is actually from Michigan would probably
Yeah.
do better than Pete, or maybe a Garland Gilchrist, of course. Someone stronger that's not Pete and not Rashida Tlaib runs here, and potentially on the Republican side, you have someone weaker that runs, for
hmm
example, a Tudor Dixon. And that combined with a potential D+10 environment, that gets safe Michigan for me.
Yeah. I definitely think, for example, yeah, Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel, I think she's probably the strongest candidate Democrats have, at least of the people who publicly expressed interest. And I definitely think, yeah, her, like in 2022, for example, she won by like 9 points. So she's able to do that in what's arguably like a reddish sort of year. She could definitely win by solid margins in a blue year. So yeah, I think in a best case, that for sure goes to Democrats, and by a solid margin. Where to next? Maybe we go to like redder sort of states now, like Nebraska.
Yeah, we can go to Nebraska, maybe Alaska, which rhyme. These two
Hmm.
states, they are interesting because they sort of depend on a certain candidate running
Yes.
for the Democrats to really put this not in safe, even in a great Democrat year. In Nebraska, you are really hoping for Dan Osborne here, the former independent candidate in 2024, that scared the Republicans a little there. And looking at that race, I mean, honestly, it's kind of interesting because he would now be running against Pete Ricketts, who's probably,
Yeah.
it's a different race. He does not running against Deb Fisher, but also Dan Osborne in a really good Democrat year. I think this would at least move down to likely Republican, but
Yeah.
yeah, I
I
don't think
definitely
he's
think
running. Yeah,
yeah, I mean, th he's been like talking about running for different offices 2026. Like he could run for governor. I'm not sure if there's a Senate seat open in the state. Oh, sorry. He could run for Senate. I'm not sure if there's a governor seat open. I think there is. So he could run for a senator governor. There's been talk that he could run for Nebraska's second congressional district against Don Bacon. So I mean, there's been a lot of talk about Dan Osborne. It seems like he might be interested in running for something. So we'll see. Pete Ricketts might be a tougher lift than Deb Fisher when he ran against her in
for sure, for sure.
2024. Yeah, because he's a former governor. I definitely think he's more of an established force in the state as opposed to um to the person you ran against in this past year, 2024. So yeah, I definitely it'd be a tough lift for to see him win there. And then I guess from there we can move on to Alaska.
Yeah, we
Um,
can go to Alaska.
so
Go ahead.
Alaska, yeah, we have Dan Sullivan running there. I mean, he's a pretty generic Republican incumbent. I do think he is he's in a good position to win. The Democrats' only like really good candidate in the state is Mary Peltola. And I mean, I she seems like she might run for House or governor because those just seem like easier seats for her to get. But if she were to run for Senate, and this is a best case Senate video, she probably could closen it up a bit. I don't think she'd win against such an entrenched incumbent though. So I would probably put it likely R if it is. Maybe yeah, likely or lean R. I don't think I don't think she'd be able to flip that, even in the best case.
Yeah, I mean, we could probably broaden it out to lean R, but yeah, even with Mary Peltola running, I just think it's gonna be so hard to win this race. I mean, honestly, you look at the 2020 election, you know, I guess, technically an independent, but still this challenge in 2020, I mean, holding on by so many points in a year where Trump definitely ceded ground in Alaska, and we were talking about that as well in previous videos. And of course, you had just a worse year for Republicans overall, and he still did fine. I mean, of course, this is a really good year for Democrats that we're talking about here, but still, just it's difficult to see. I mean, we'll put this in lean for now, but I'm sure in our next best case, we're likely going to put this likely or even safe if Peltola files
Yeah.
paperwork or goes for something else for sure. So yeah. Okay. I guess we can
hmm
move on to maybe states like Georgia or
Yeah,
uh
I guess yeah, bluer
yeah.
sort of states here. Okay. I mean, best case in Georgia, I can already tell you, Marjorie Taylor Greene runs and John Ossoff executes her in that race. I definitely think, yeah, with John Ossoff running, he's already quite a strong candidate in 2020, able to unseat a very entrenched incumbent. I do believe, yeah, he's like a very strong candidate Democrats have. Obviously, if this was a Republican best case, we'd have like we'd have the current governor Brian Kemp running. But yeah, I think in a best case for Democrats, I think yeah, I don't think the Republicans would get such a strong candidate. Because yeah, Marjorie Taylor Greene expressed interest. And yeah, if she were to somehow win that primary, yeah, I think that I don't know. What do you think?
I don't even think you guys need Marjorie Taylor Greene. You look at this, even this Republican internal polling. I'm not sure if it's Kemp internal, or just a Republican internal. But if you look at this, I mean, this even if it's an internal, and even if it's 500 likely voters, this screen you have in front of you here tells you a lot, and it's really that Republicans have one hope because you show that John Ossoff he already won in 2020, right? Now you take a look at him running in 2026, where Democrats have consistently done better in Georgia, regardless of, the presidential environment. They've improved in the Georgia suburbs over and over, regardless of what happened in the state overall. You have likely declining rural turnout with the fact that it's an off-year election, it's a midterm election, and just that John Ossoff is now an incumbent, right? That's tons of reasons why John Ossoff would be doing better. And the only real threat here is Brian Kemp because of how he decimated Stacey Abrams in 2022, even though Herschel Walker lost in the Senate election. So you have the fact that Brian Kemp is a consistent, very strong candidate, very strong overperformer.
Hmm.
I think in our best Republican scenario, Brian Kemp's definitely going to win. And we might even start moving this into tilt Republican or lean Republican in our actual ratings if Kemp actually decides to run and we start getting good polling. But in terms of a best case, I mean, this is nearing safe territory for me because with all those factors I mentioned, you have Kemp not running in our best case. I would put this in safe Democrat, although maybe controversial.
Yeah, I mean, it is a bit controversial. I would say like the only reality where Democrats can push this into like an utterly safe race is if Marjorie Taylor Greene is the Republican nominee, in my opinion. I think, yeah, like in a best cases against, say, like Republican representatives, like other Republican representatives, like Mike Collins uh or Buddy
Mike
Carter,
Collins might
like
do well. Yeah.
like it would obviously be closer, but Marjorie Taylor Greene, like I think even in like a light blue sort of year, she would get kind of destroyed. So I think yeah, in a best case for Democrats, this is like me imagining Marjorie Taylor Greene versus John Ossoff. That's what would happen.
Yeah.
Like she'd win by like 12 points. Um, okay. Next, I guess we should go to North Carolina. If that's all right. I think that's
Yeah.
probably the next bluest here. Um, North Carolina, it seems like incumbent Republican Senator Tom Tillis will be running for re-election, but there is a big risk that the former Democratic governor, who just recently got out of office, who was term limited out of office, Roy Cooper, seems like he is angling for a run for Senate. And yeah, I definitely think even in like the standard year for 2026, he would be favored. So if we are going with like the best case Democratic scenario here, which we are, I definitely think Cooper would win this quite handily. I'd probably put this in likely because I think he's favored regardless. And yeah, like in this scenario, it would just be like him winning by a larger margin. I think in a normal year, he's probably already ahead by like 2 points. I think Tillis would be in a pretty bad position to start. And yeah, like with what we said, a D plus 10 sort of year, I do think, yeah, that's enough to.
I'm gonna push back just a little bit
Hmm.
on your premise that Roy Cooper's just outright favored. I think it starts more as a toss-up if Roy Cooper runs, but I will agree in the best case, likely D. I will say though that North Carolina just has such a long history of barely electing Republicans over and over at the federal level and then pushing Democrats into statewide offices, that are not senator, of course. So I just happen to think that, you know, you said that 2024 was going to be the year that Democrats would win North Carolina. It just didn't happen. I think we just keep looking at North Carolina as something that's going to flip, but it just doesn't on the federal level, and it keeps going Democrat on the state level. So it keeps baiting you into thinking next year's the year, especially when a big, a governor runs or something like that. But I can't see it just yet. We're gonna have to actually get some good polling, but some polling could definitely convince me. Or if Trump actually starts degrading on his approval, because somehow Trump's approval has not been degrading, despite all the controversial actions. I thought that it would go down, but it did not. So yeah, okay. Anyways, regardless, we can move on because we agree on the rating here. We
Yep.
can go to some more Republican leading states. I think we can go to Florida. I mean,
Oh,
honestly,
yes, yes.
let's just go knock out Florida now because this is going far too long without touching Florida.
This
This
is
is
true.
going to be yeah, this is going to be not no longer Marco Rubio seat. You know, uh, and this is the special election here.
Hmm.
And with Marco Rubio not being
Yeah.
here, this does change the calculus because of course if Marco Rubio was here, there wouldn't even be a Senate election, first of all. But if there was a Senate election with Marco Rubio in it,
Yeah.
they'll be safe, regardless of the best case.
Yeah.
But here we're not doing it. Um, we look at the Republican primary here, and of course, you have Ashley Moody, who's now the senator, former Attorney General of Florida, who I think is a very solid candidate for
Hmm.
sure. And you also have potential running from, I guess, Ron DeSantis here, who is, of course, the current governor. And he would be potentially even stronger. I think he would be even stronger than Ashley Moody personally. But you also have some weaker candidates like a Matt Gaetz. This would be very rough, but I'm gonna just completely decline to even consider him because of the fact that he's definitely not winning a primary against an Ashley Moody or Ron DeSantis or even one of these other people here, one of these other
Yeah.
wimps.
I
I'm
don't
not
think,
even
yeah.
consider that. Yeah, we
I
can't
think
consider
Ashley
him like we
Moody,
yeah, we
yeah,
like we
is
can't consider him just like we'd consider Marjorie Taylor Greene. He's sort of out of the picture for me. And you also look at the Democrat side. The Democrat side is honestly they don't even have any candidates listed here, and they're kind of cooked. Democrats running on the state level are going to lose every time around for the foreseeable future, and I don't think any strong Democrats, for example, U.S. reps or strong local officials like mayors, I don't think they want to run for the seat. They want to run
no.
for their comfortable representative seat in the House of Representatives that are already gerrymandered for them to win. They want to run for other offices, but not statewide office in Florida. They do not want to do that. This is horrible for them, and I think
Hmm.
that's why. Worst case, maybe this even goes into likely, but could just even stay in safe with how bad Democrats are doing here.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the big struggle for Democrats in Florida, I think, for this race, I mean, along with the state just trending so far to the right, is they don't really have many candidates to run. Um, yeah, so like I don't even see like in a best case like a good candidate for them would be like maybe Jared Moskowitz, but he already declined. So from there, it's like, okay, who do you run after that? I mean, just because, assuming this is like an extremely blue sort of year, I do think, yeah, in a best case, Democrats could probably get it to like, oh, a 9 point loss. But
Yeah.
so maybe likely, but yeah, I think even in the best of cases for Democrats, they're not getting Florida back for the Senate. Um, After that, I think maybe we could probably go to like Maine. Um, I think best case Democrats definitely win Maine. It's a state that voted for Harris by um pretty large margins. I think she would definitely won it by like a likely margin, 6 or 7 points. Um, Democrats' best candidates in the state are probably like Jared Golden or Janet Mills, the incumbent governor, or and the current House rep in that Republican leaning seat in the north of Maine. Both I think would be exceptionally good candidates, and I think both could beat Susan Collins by pretty handy margins if the year is blue enough. So yeah, I guess we could. I think in a best case, we could probably put that likely, even though Susan Collins has proven herself to be a very, very formidable incumbent.
Yeah, I don't know if I can. I mean, likely is a big lift. You just look at 2020 one more time, okay? I mean, I like bringing this up because this is a very important image to be showing everyone up leading up to 2026 when we start moving Maine into lean Democrat for some reason. Of course, it's going to be a good environment for Democrats, but you look at this, I don't know if we can really be putting this in likely, but I guess I will be just because it's so early and there's a wide range. But just keep looking at this, right? Gideon plus whatever, but Collins is actually uh, you know, she was under a lot of fire for voting for Brett Kavanaugh here in the state of Maine, especially with his alleged, sexual assault, harassment, whatever, scandal. And then you also had a strong candidate on the Democrat side, Sarah Gideon, who's the Speaker of the Maine House of Reps, and she still didn't do very well, and she even fully avoided the ranked choice voting. And you move on to 2026. Of course, you have strong candidates yet again on the Dem side, but can I really see any of these people winning by over five? I guess it's possible with being this early, but you know, I I almost want to move this into lean Democrat, but I guess we'll do it for now. But I think the next time we do this video, it's probably going to be in lean at this point. But yeah, I mean, I don't know.
I mean, when you account for the fact that if the race had gone to ranked choice voting, for example, the race would have been closer because there was another in 2020, for example, there was third party candidates that leaned to the left in the state. Um, I mean, Collins, of course, was able to avoid ranked choice voting, but she really, like, assuming all the third party candidates' votes went to the Democrats, or the majority of them would, she would have only won by what, like 5 points. I do think, especially with like in a what would be a bluer year against a stronger candidate known with more name recognition statewide, I definitely think I'm pretty confident in a best case it could get into that kind of category blue. But the main risk for Democrats is that Golden doesn't run or Janet Mills is just like retires from politics. Like that's probably a more likely sort of scenario, and they have to run with somebody else. Um,
Yeah, and I think we can definitely just for the Republican best case, we will be assuming that probably.
yeah.
So, all right, let's move on to
Um,
wherever you want, maybe Iowa or something.
yeah, I guess Iowa. Iowa, I mean, Democrats don't really seem to have many candidates. I mean, I'm sure they have like a handful of House candidates, of prior House candidates who might consider running, but no one I really feel that would be strong enough to tank out Joni Ernst, the Republican incumbent. I'd say the best candidate in the state for Democrats is probably Rob Sand, but who's like a statewide official. I believe he's not the treasurer, he's the auditor. He's a state auditor, I believe. But yeah, he's able to win statewide in years like 2022, for example. Um, but he seems like he's angling a run for governor. So I don't think he's going in for Senate. Yeah, I guess like best case for Dems right now, just because of the lack of candidate, I'd probably put it likely D. I'm sorry, likely R, with Joni Ernst the favorite. But yeah, generally, yeah, I think this is just going to be a reddish sort of state. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, okay. Where should we put this? Like
yeah, likely
likely,
R.
honestly. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah, okay. Now, I guess maybe Texas before Ohio.
Hmm.
I would say, yeah, John Cornyn. He is potentially facing a big
Yeah,
primary challenge. He is a little vulnerable on that front from someone from his right, like a Ken Paxton, something like that. Looking at it though, it is very close. You know, you look at this polling, it could potentially go Ken Paxton's way. These are all
yeah,
various internals though, but still, I think we could reasonably assume that in a really good year for Democrats, that John Cornyn does not win that
yeah,
primary because it's possible. It's in the realm of possibility. It's higher than 5% chance. We assume that, but still, where do we look for the Democrat candidate? There isn't even anyone listed here because of how there just seems to be no interest from Democrats yet in this election. And so, without anyone, I mean, we could assume a generic Republican or even a generic Democrat, my apologies, or a slightly above average, than slightly above generic Democrat, someone like a Colin Allred that ran last time, for example, that could do slightly better, but you know, I don't know if this would definitely be on the edge because you have a very unelectable, I guess, Republican and a very more than average electable Democrat. This could be maybe I don't know, maybe a tilt on both sides at best for Democrats, maybe a toss up because of still how red Texas was in 2024. It's still a lot to move.
yeah. I mean, I think yeah, it does depend on who Democrats run, and obviously you're
Still
assuming
14
also.
points to move. Yeah.
Yeah, you're also assuming Ken Paxton was. Ken Paxton is a, not the strongest Republican in Texas for sure. I think he performed the worst statewide of any Republican in 2022. So he did underperform a lot of the other Republicans, and I think after coming out of a primary, he'll probably be weaker. But yeah, I think best case maybe I'll say lean R because yeah, Democrats. don't really seem to have a clear candidate in the state yet. I imagine they'll run some sort of former representative, maybe former representative, maybe Beto O'Rourke wants to jump in again. But yeah, generally, I don't think they'll be able to flip Texas. Just given
Yeah.
like it seems like yeah, Texas is hasn't been going so hot for Democrats as of recent with that 2024 election. So yeah, I think even in a best case, probably lean R.
Lean arm. Wow. I mean, yeah, I'll let you break the ties because there is the dev video. So we'll go lean arm here. And then I guess we'll finish off with Ohio here, where, you know, Ohio could be interesting because the incumbent senator, J.D. Vance, of course, has gotten much higher name recognition than Senator J.D. Vance. He's now VP J.D. Vance. And as such, the lieutenant governor of Ohio assumed the seat, John Husted, who is, I
Hmm.
think, a pretty generic candidate. He might even be above average here if he decides to rerun for the seat, and he looks like he's, sort of angling
Yeah.
for it here. And I think this looks good for Republicans as well, just because, of course, being the lieutenant governor there, he wasn't, he's not just coming out of nowhere. He was already elected to office, so he's already, he already has that sort of like, oh, I'm elected to office. I was chosen by the people for a statewide office, and now I'm appointed to the Senate seat. That's very in line with expectations as well. And there's some very strong candidates though on the Democrat side. I will say Sherrod Brown or Tim Ryan would be huge for Democrats if either of them ran. Specifically, Sherrod Brown, of course, being a former
Yeah.
senator, and this could get spicy if he runs. And I think maybe this could be a tilt D or maybe even a lean D in a really good year. But still, John Husted very strong. So I'm not sure what you want to do here.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm not sure of his electoral record per se, but yes, I mean, he does seem like a pretty generic Republican, so I reckon he will do above.
Electoral
Uh,
history, very strong. We'll say when
okay.
he did run for secretary, is very strong. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, yes, okay. So yeah, he does run pretty well for it does appear he runs pretty well for Republican Ohio. Definitely better than the average MAGA candidate, I would say. But yes, I think in a best case, with Democrats actually putting the race into contention with like Sherrod Brown, for example, I think Sherrod Brown, the former Democratic senator from there, is by far the best candidate. In a very, very blue wave year, D plus 10 year, I think Democrats could probably flip it back in a best case, but yeah, it'd only be like lean blue, I reckon. But yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's probably the only hope for Democrats, like Sherrod Brown running.
And even
Um,
still, what if Sherrod Brown does declare? I think John Husted starts favored here.
he probably
Uh,
does, but
yeah.
in this best case, I think that
Yeah.
it's winnable. Yeah.
For sure. I mean, yeah. I mean, if you do look at these strong years, they are both the anti-Obama years here, 2010 and 2014. Big backlash against Obama twice. So this does sort of inflate John Huston's numbers here. I will give that, but still looks like he does very well. He's aligned with Mike DeWine as well, the governor who
Hmm. Yeah.
performed extremely well in 2022, contrary to JD Vance actually. So yeah, there's that. But still, I think it's gonna it's gonna be lean D here. But still, that means that the floor for Republicans here and the ceiling for Democrats here is 50 seats each, which is not enough for Democrats to take back the Senate anyway, even in a top 5% year where we
Mm.
basically gave them every seat possible. We try to give every seat possible to the Democrats at large margins at that, especially in like Georgia and Maine. But still, Republicans hold the Senate here with J.D. Vance breaking the ties, which is why,
Yep.
honestly, the path just looks impossible for Democrats. Probably, I guess we're basically this channel saying that Democrats have a less than 5% chance to win the Senate, which I think sounds about right. It's probably around 2 to 3%. So
Yeah, it is very low as of right now. But yeah, things can change. There's always like a risk that like other candidates get in. Maybe Lindsey Graham faces a challenge in South Carolina again, or some crazy stuff happens out of nowhere, like a Republican retirement or something. You never know. But yeah, for now,
yeah,
the way
but
we see it,
betting
best
markets
case,
disagree though. Like,
yeah. I mean, percentage wise, they do give Democrats a higher chance than we would give them. But yeah,
Anyways, that's about it for this video. Thanks so much for watching our best case for Democrats in the Senate in 2026 video. We will be coming out with the Republican version probably in less than a week, maybe in a few days or so, depending on
Mm.
our schedule. But thanks so much for watching. Leave a like on this video down below. Comment down below what you thought of this video. If you think Democrats could even flip the Senate in a best case, or if you think there's no way Democrats win Ohio, put that down in the comments down below. Subscribe to the channel if you enjoy our videos so you don't miss any of them. And thanks for watching. Share this video with your family and friends.
See you guys.